come once again to discuss things.
Go ahead and just jump right into it then. Hi everyone, welcome to a special mini-sode, or I don't know, maybe we'll have enough to say about this that it'll turn into a full episode, who knows, of Geeky Gentlemen. That's like the longest I've ever gone with that. Anyway, I am Sid Part 2, and joining me today is Rasco, aka Squatch Gang.
Howdy y'all.
Yeah, it's just really get the Kentucky in there.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I did not know your name was Rasco when, I first talked to you because you just have Squatch Gang on your Skype.
Yeah.
And then I started hearing other people say it. I'm like, oh my god, I know he's from Kentucky. And that is the most southern name I've ever heard. It's like that and Jeremiah Jebedied or something. Those are the two right there. So... not to insult you to your face, but to insult you via internet to your ears. Anyway, so we were going to be doing an episode talking about Let's Plays this week, but as I explained through various levels of disappointment, that's not going to happen this week, and we're not going to be able to reschedule it and, upload it at any point this week, so that'll be next week. Again, if everything goes well, which it probably won't. So we'll see if this ever happens, but I recorded game footage for it, so I really want it to happen. We'll be doing that episode in the future, but since Rasco and I were the only ones here, and I think I keep pronouncing your name different ways, I can't catch it whether or not I'm doing it. Since he and I are here, though, we decided we'd talk about something, and I just put all the pressure on him to come up with a topic off the top of his head. And what was the topic you decided on?
Well, I failed to come up with one. Not really. The topic is hidden gem movies.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much, this is a weird thing, because we're either not going to be able to get nearly enough out of this, or we're going to go on for an absurd length of time. I don't know which one it's going to be. But we'll see what happens. Normally I would ask, what made you think of this or something, but since you just kind of, came up with something at the last possible second, I'm not going to do that to you. So we'll just go ahead and go to examples. So what in your mind is, a good example of a hidden gem movie that, you can't believe other people haven't seen and talked about?
Well, this is... I don't know if it's necessarily a good movie. I think it is. I'm not sure, and the reason I'm not sure is because, to me, when I first saw it, it was really it seemed like if you had seen this movie when it came out, which I think was during the 70s, you would have been like, this is an iconic horror movie that, everyone's going to be talking about for a long time, not necessarily because it's good, but because it's really, really memorable. It's called The Brood. And I think it's a Canadian horror movie. I'm not sure. I think it was a David Cronenberg movie. And it is just weird. It is so weird. And I don't know. It totally plays like a really, really strange episode of The Twilight Zone. And it's about these brood children that are little creepy monster people. And it's so weird, but it has really good actors in it, and I don't know. It just seems like a movie that everyone should know about, but they don't.
Yeah. See, I guess we kind of have to get around the definition, because what attracted me to this topic when you brought it up, and why I was cool with you kind of brought up two, and I was cool with either one of them. I was just talking about another one. Another movie that I have similar feelings toward, though it's not horror, with someone at work tonight, And so I guess in my mind, a hidden gem, it doesn't necessarily have to be like good, award-winning stuff, but it has to have something really intriguing and interesting about it, or something that deserves to be remembered and for some reason was forgotten. And for me, like, this is a movie that, every kid has that one movie that they can just quote verbatim. And it's like, you shouldn't be able to. It's like the movie you also shouldn't have watched, but you watched so many times as a child you like that perfectly memorized. Okay, so that movie for me is Kung Pao Enter the Fist. Have you seen or heard of this ever?
No.
Oh my god, it is one of the most ridiculously stupid fucking movies ever made, but it's so damn goofy silly. Alright, I swear to God, I've almost considered picking this, but I haven't because I'd want to pick it to have Captain Logan on to talk about it, but I don't think he'd do it. Alright, so the basic premise of the movie is the guy that directed it and starred in it took an old 1970s like kung fu action movie shot in Japan, and he blue screened himself into a bunch of the scenes and then dubbed over all the dialogue with just the most ridiculously stupid shit. That's like, I don't even know if I can get through this without laughing. It's so fucking dumb. Like, the villain is like, name is Master Pain, and he's taken over the government of this small town, and he's at a meeting with all like the powerful men of the city, and he's like this really intimidating looking dude. And he goes, "From this day on, you shall refer to me by the name Betty." And then the rest of the movie, people keep calling him Betty.
He sounds like Cobra Commander. Your impersonation of him sounded like Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe.
It's fucking bonkers. Like they have this guy that was supposed to be like the main character's rival for the hero role in the movie, but they just dubbed over him and made him like completely fucking useless. And they're like, "Ignore him. We purposefully trained him bad as a joke." He's like, "I am bleeding, making me the victor." There's just all kinds of it's just fucking dumb as shit, but I love it to death. And it's not just nostalgia. I think there's just something so ridiculously silly about that movie that people should watch and be able to enjoy, and I would love for people to take like that formula and apply it to other things. Like, I talked with Bill about this for a long time one night, and we were planning to even start doing it, but like everything I talked with Bill about, it completely fell through. We wanted to do the exact same thing to shitty 50s monster movies. Just like green screen ourselves in when like in one of the really bad Godzilla movies. It's just shit goes on and we just keep dubbing over everything.
Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, I love that movie to death. I think it is, like, everyone should see that movie. I just don't know, like, if adults would be able to enjoy it. I think you have to kind of, like, I don't know, I think you might have to get in there before you turn 15.
You might have to have an undeveloped brain at the time of watching it, is what you're saying.
Maybe, like, just to be able to accept the goofy stupidness, because as an adult it's like, I don't have time to watch a baby kung fu fight people and then pee on them. But as a child, yeah, there's like it's like the villain tries to kill the chosen one as a baby, and like he takes the knife and tries to stab the baby with it, but like the baby reaches up from his crib and grabs his hand, and then he jumps up and kung fu fights all the henchmen and escapes a burning house and stuff. It's stupid. It's so dumb.
So I think the subject of this has changed from hidden gems to movies that may not be good at all that are hidden. So hidden bad stuff.
I don't know, man. I think it's hilarious and it should be watched. Yeah, I don't know. You go watch Kung Pao Under the Fist and tell me if it was a worthwhile experience.
I think I'd have a hard time finding a platform to watch that on. Like, that doesn't sound like the kind of movie that's on Netflix.
It's not, but I mean, I don't know. It shouldn't be that hard to get a hold of. It came out like, let's see, I was fifth grade, so 99 or 2000 or 2001, depending on the month. So yeah, that's my hidden gem of a movie, and there are other good ones. Like everyone loves Donnie Darko to death. I think it's kind of overrated and like gets a little bit too much credit. But one movie that's in kind of the same vein is The Chum Scrubber, and it's really about like I think I have the DVD case over here actually, but it on the cover it says Generation RX, and it's just about kind of dejected teenagers who just are told to take drugs to fix all their problems, but not to do drugs. So I don't know. That's another movie that I really like that I think just no one knows about.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. What's another one that you got, I guess, before we move on to just kind of general why movies are forgotten about? Because I've talked for quite a while.
Another movie. Oh, man. Okay, this is not a good movie. Okay. And I don't even know how unknown this movie is, but do you know the movie Deep Blue Sea?
Describe the plot real quick.
Okay, Deep Blue Sea is about this weird, like, shark research facility in the middle of the ocean.
Oh, is that the one where Samuel Jackson's, like, giving a speech?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I've seen Deep Blue Sea.
That movie. Okay, when I was a kid, I really liked movies about sharks. So, Deep Blue Sea, it has sharks in it. So I was all about that. So I'm watching Deep Blue Sea, and I loved it as a child because it had sharks in it. And I come away from that, and now look back, and yes, that movie is terrible, but I feel like, I don't know,
it deserves to be remembered.
Kind of unique, I don't know.
I don't know, the idea of, like, making sharks smarter is kind of cool, because that's kind of what the horror of Jaws kind of revolved around, was the shark was smarter than anyone was giving it credit for. And so the idea of, like, experimenting on sharks is kind of interesting. Oddly enough, did you ever watch Sealab 2021 on Adult Swim?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, God, I feel old. It was the same people that are doing Archer on FX now, but that was like their first show that they got, and they just took. I guess I'm just really a fan of this trope of taking something that was not meant to be funny and then dubbing over it and repurposing everything. But they took episodes of this shitty Hanna-Barbera show called Sealab 2020, called it Sealab 2021, and just made it like really, really lewdly adult. Like at one point they talk about, let's watch porno bloopers, and holy shit, Betty, you're there. So
now that you're saying this, the name and then when you said it was Hanna-Barbera, like that, I probably do know what this is, but I just
okay. Yeah, I remember one of their final episodes. They they played like a fake movie trailer where like the one of the main like scientist guys. Either he put a shark's brain into a metallic shark body, but he also somehow made the shark smarter. So like it's really like a stupid idea that keeps getting reused in a lot of different things, I guess. Because I mean, sharks don't need to be smart; they're pretty fucking intimidating as is. If you don't believe me, go get in the water with a shark.
Robot Shark, the movie.
Yeah, philosophical shark.
In a world where sharks are philosophers.
Oh man. I don't know, what would shark ethics be? Anyway, No, but I like Deep Blue Sea. I thought it was a fun, dumb action movie kind of thing. CG doesn't hold up very well now, does it?
Yeah, that is true. You know, it subverts expectations multiple times. Okay, who's the guy who's in that movie who's like a rapper? There's a rapper in that movie. But
LL Cool J?
Yeah. And he's like the chef, and he subverts they totally throw you for a loop with him. First, he gets stuck in an oven in the kitchen. He happens to also be a black guy in a horror-esque movie. You think he's gonna die. He's in an oven, and the shark turns the oven on by accident. He doesn't die. He gets out. He lives. Then we move forward. Later on, a shark bites him, and the shark is like eating him in the water, and he stabs the shark in the eye with a little cross necklace. He stabs the shark in the eye, escapes, and he lives.
Nice. Yeah. All right, so like, I guess what the merit of that movie then would be just in how it doesn't follow all the cliches, but you know, kind of circumvents them, I guess. Yeah,
and you know, at least goes for something. Like it looks like a movie that they had to try to make.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't think when you're sitting around and you're like, let's make a shitty movie. Like when they were sitting down to make Piranha 3D, they're like, okay, just fucking get people. There has to be water because you have to have water for aquatic predators to attack. But this movie doesn't do that. It makes a big weird shark oil rig. It attempts to have some sci-fi thrown in there with some super intelligent sharks. I mean,
isn't Aaron Eckhart in that too? Isn't he like one of the main characters?
Aaron Eckhart.
Two-Face.
No. It's the guy from the guy who played the Punisher.
Okay, Thomas Jane. All right.
Yeah, it's him.
Okay, those two don't look as alike as Thomas Jane and the guy from Highlander, but still. Because Thomas Jane is blonde in that movie, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's what made me think of it. You made me think of another one that I do think is a bit better. Core.
I knew you were about to say that when you said Aaron Eckhart. I knew you were going to bring up Core.
Yeah, I like Core. I always thought Core was a fun movie. You know, it was like the exact opposite of what was the
Armageddon?
The one. Yeah, Armageddon is the exact opposite. So
it's time in Mageddon. This time, Earth's salvation is inward.
You know, this isn't related to the topic, but what that made me think of is I cannot believe that there is somehow a viable business off of people making really shitty rip-off movies, and the only reason I can think of is the only way I can think that these are possibly getting sold is when like an old person walks into a store to buy movies and like sees it and goes, oh, that's that movie I heard about. That's Alien versus Hunter. Yeah, my grandson will like that.
Yeah.
And they buy it. It's like the shitty, you know, rip-off project. I don't understand how there's a viable market for that, but apparently there is because they keep getting made.
Well, the same market buying those shitty knockoff Asylum movies, it's the same people who buy like movie licensed games, like Thor the video game. Like it's the same people that were like Battleship the video game.
Well, like, how do you fuck up Battleship? It's already a game.
They made it a first-person shooter.
That doesn't even make sense.
Because it's Battleship the movie. Yeah, that's really fucking stupid.
What the shit? I don't know. I've never understood how the fucking rip-off pictures work. Like, sometimes they're honestly better than the shitty blockbusters, but still, I don't know. It's always strange to me. What was the one? It was on Netflix for the longest time, but it was basically Jurassic Park, only they put it right in the middle of a city. And, like, this motherfucker, it's like this old dude, in a wheelchair, and he clones fucking dinosaurs, so I just started calling his character not John Hammond.
I think I have Stupider that I've seen before on Netflix.
Yeah?
It's called, maybe I'm combining two separate shark movies, but I think this was one shark movie. It was called Two-Headed Ghost Shark Attack.
I've seen Ghost Shark,
Well,
and that was dumb.
I think that I'm not confusing this. I think it's Two-Headed Ghost Shark Attack.
Oh my god.
Maybe it was just Two-Headed Shark Attack, and then I saw Ghost Shark and combined it, but I'm pretty sure it's like the sequel, and it's called Two-Headed Ghost Shark. And, I mean, okay, a two-headed shark, we can't even be sure that that's more dangerous than one-headed shark. It could be more disadvantageous to have.
Yeah, because, like, it's trying to go...
You're competing with your own body for the same food. The sharks are competing with each other to eat the same things. Very stupid. Doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's really bad when a feature, like a theatrically released movie franchise goes from that to being a straight-to-DVD, like Anaconda, where you have Anaconda 1 and maybe Anaconda 2, I'm not sure, that came out in theaters, and then you have Anaconda 3 that has David Hasselhoff in it, and it's not in theaters, it was like a straight-to-DVD release, like, that's when you know you fucked
Lake
up.
Placid did that, because the first one was actually pretty good, all things considered, but then the second one was a pile of garbage, and then they only got worse.
Dude, I fucking love movies about big carnivorous animals. Big sharks, big alligators. Love Lake Placid.
Yeah, Lake Placid was good. I'm trying to remember what Lake Placid. That's a movie that's kind of gone away. That kind of got popular in the aftermath of all the Jurassic Park craze and stuff. What was the one I saw that was just an absolute pile of garbage? I think it was Giant Cobra versus Giant Komodo, and like it was so poorly done that like anytime the animals were going to come after the humans and start attacking them, the humans like had just basic handguns. And now I don't know a ton about guns. I think the most I've ever heard of a handgun holding is 13 rounds.
Well,
the humans just held handguns, and it was one stable shot on them, and they just aimed off screen and started firing, and they just continually fired. Like, round after round after round. Like, they'd put in a cheat code to unlock unlimited ammo because they never stopped to reload. It was just so fucking stupid.
When you're in a movie, you have that ability. You gain special powers when you're in movies.
I suppose. No, so like, alright, so we're really off topic though, but like hidden gems opposed to like just really bad movies. And I feel like it's my fault, but I will stand by that. I think Kung Pao Into the Fist is a hidden gem. Look up the trailer if nothing else, anyone listening to this. I fucking love that movie to death. But anyway. Alright, so what then divides a hidden gem... Or, hold on, let's go ahead and go this way with it. Alright, so we have movies that get forgotten but possibly don't deserve to. So, what do you think makes a movie deserve to be remembered? Is it like a quality thing, or is it maybe it just did this one thing good, or what makes hidden gem films deserve not to have fallen into obscurity?
I think it's that sometimes an interesting movie can be just as important to like the film genre or like medium, I guess. Sometimes interesting movies can be just as important as good movies. I feel like that applies to most art. Music. Sometimes a really weird, like, interesting song that you don't necessarily know is good, but it's interesting. Sometimes songs like that are important. And same thing goes for, like, art. There's tons of artists who have all these paintings that you don't see necessarily, especially people like Pablo Picasso, and they're really weird shit when you look at them, and some of his stuff isn't necessarily good. It's just interesting.
Experimenting.
Yeah, and it's important because it's experimenting and seeing what works, what doesn't. And when you put out a really weird movie and certain things are really well received, then moving forward, everyone can look to that for example. I mean, we see that all the time with movies nowadays, where it's like something sticks, and another movie company or another production studios are like, okay, this works, now we can do it. Like just with Deadpool. Deadpool is a rated R superhero movie, and it's had like a larger opening than like any rated R movie or something like that. It's like now their movie, it's an experiment, and it's interesting. And I think Deadpool's good, but I think it's interesting more so than it is good. And that's a movie that now has changed the game because they're like, okay, we can make rated R movies off of the weirdest comic book shit that we have that no one knows about in the general public.
I'm just waiting for Transmetropolitan to be a thing now.
Yeah, and so, I don't know. It's important because it helps progress any sort of medium.
Yeah, no, like, I think you're onto something, because you could make an argument that these little, like, forgotten things can be more important than some of the stuff that gets remembered and gets a bunch of recognition. It's been a long time now, but Steve and I did a topic on the Academy Awards and just how short-sighted they always seem.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back and look at films that won Best Picture, you're like, really? That?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like a slow year, but a lot of times it's just because the Academy makes poor decisions or makes, decisions for the wrong reasons. And so, yeah, it's one of those interesting things. Like, you can have a movie that's like just kind of falls by the wayside, just didn't really connect with anyone, but then years later can become a cult classic. And I guess that's the distinction between a hidden gem and a cult classic is a hidden gem never really catches on, but it's something that you've seen that is good. And a cult classic is something that didn't catch on at first, but eventually enough people saw that it was good, so it went from being a hidden gem to a cult classic.
A lot of movies that we just now even consider to be classics are actually more along the lines of cult classics that have been cult classics for so long that they just become the classics. Like Blade Runner, I don't think that, and I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure in the case of Blade Runner and maybe even Alien, I don't think those movies were initial huge successes. Or at least, like, I don't think people were seeing Blade Runner in theaters for the first time and being like, wow, this is a AFI top 100 quality movie. I think that was a thing where its popularity really came about when it was on DVD and it had been around for a while, or not DVD, but when it had been released. And that kind of built up later, I feel like, with people discussing the movie so many years later. It's kind of built a reputation. It didn't just necessarily come out and have this huge, oh my god, this is great reception from everyone.
Yeah, and that kind of happened with the Daredevil Directors Cut on DVD. Like, a lot of people rag on Daredevil, and it still has a ton of problems no matter what way you come at it, but the director's cut of that film is a significantly better movie and was a step or two ahead of a lot of other superhero fare that we've gotten since. Like, that movie saw what should have been done, and the studio kind of stepped on it a little bit and made it be more like the typical stuff that was out at the time. If that sentence makes any sense. No, like, the studio got involved with Daredevil, and that's why we have the theatrical cut, which has, just way more problems. But when you look at what was done with the director's cut, there's still a lot of problems with the film, but a lot of that movie was ahead of its time. The Daredevil director's cut is something I could have seen coming out in, maybe 2008, 2009, as opposed to 2003. So that was like 5 years ahead of its time.
Especially because back then, when we were first getting superhero movies on a regular basis, it was as if you kind of just looked to comics for like iconography and famous stories, and then you kind of pulled from a bunch of different things and made like a amalgamation of like famous storylines, and then put those together and kind of
X-Men 3.
What?
That's exactly what X-Men 3 is.
Yeah, X-Men 3 is a good example. And then nowadays you have where they kind of just straight up go, let's do a Days of Future Past movie. And it's not going to be like, it's not the comic, but it's the same gist, the same story. And they're like, let's just kind of retell the story completely different, as if we just had the textbook outline for what it's kind of about.
Yeah, it's based off of one singular thing as opposed to trying to pull from a bunch of different, like you said, it's a single project as opposed to trying to make some kind of weird medley, basically. I don't know. It's interesting to see how far ahead of its time that film was, problematic as it still is. And so I think Hidden Gems can do stuff like that, because I would still consider the Daredevil's Director's Cut to be a hidden gem, because not a lot of people realize that's a good movie, or at least not as bad a movie. Yeah. Now, can you think of any other hidden gems that are like you think are legitimately good or really are important and not just like on a personal taste level?
This is a movie that's it's not, and I don't know if it qualifies as a hidden gem, because I think it was nominated for an Oscar. It might have been nominated for Best Picture, I'm not sure. But the thing is, it's a movie that was nominated, and then it's really weird. You have movies like The Hurt Locker, where it's like, that won Best Picture, and then it's like, nowadays, like, that movie would be a hidden gem. Like, because nobody talks about that movie anymore.
Yeah, that happened with Avatar, basically.
Yeah, it's like it's fallen into hidden gem territory, but this is different because I don't think this won, but now I don't hear anyone talk about it anymore, and this movie is so good. Little Miss Sunshine, have you ever seen it?
Oh, I love Little Miss Sunshine.
Fucking love Little Miss Sunshine. But I don't hear people talk about that movie at all. Am I right? Was that nominated for an Oscar?
I think it won some kind of award, but I don't remember what.
I don't know. But yeah, like, I don't know. And that's just, the reason I say that is because, like, if I were to walk in a room and just say Little Miss Sunshine, no one looks at that like, oh yeah, that movie. And it's almost weird, is because it's like every year when you hear the Oscar nominations for Best Picture, you go out and you're like, wow, these are hidden gem movies. Like, that's what they are almost.
Well, it's because of how they're released. Like, every Oscar movie that gets nominated comes out in, like, the last quarter of the year. So it's just, the Oscars are really just, what are the most popular movies to come out in the last 3 months?
Always the most difficult movies to find showings to.
Yeah, because for some reason they don't get a wide release. I'll never understand that.
I had to watch Whiplash in such a weird, small theater. So weird.
Yeah.
Not the regular movie theater.
It's a strange world we live in. Yeah, it's interesting though how something will come out and it might get a lot of buzz at the time, but then it kind of falls into obscurity. And then there are other movies where they get like a ton of buzz and they're seen as like these great genius works, but really they're not as good as like people make them out to be. Like the hype kills it, like Juno. Juno is an interesting, alright movie, but it's not like this fantastic work of art that people made it out to be. Whereas the film that I think it was the director or maybe writer or whatever did before that is, I think, an amazing movie. And I don't know why we keep going back to Aaron Eckhart, but we're going to go back to Aaron Eckhart. Thank You for Smoking.
Yeah.
Fucking love that movie.
Oh, another hidden gem. And this is a hidden gem because I think it did really bad at the box office. Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh yeah, I love Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
That's a great movie. But like it's so weird because that's a movie that like people that know movies know, But in the public, the general public, no one's talking about Scott Pilgrim anymore.
Yeah, it completely disappeared off of everybody's radar, and it really shouldn't have, because it did such a good job of just adapting what it was based on and really working from it. Oh, okay. Same vein, really. And, like, everyone looks at me like I'm fucking crazy when I tell them how much I love this movie. Speed Racer.
Oh, dude, I fucking love Speed Racer so much.
Yay!
Did I talk about this with you? I don't know who I when was I I don't know. Maybe it was like a Geekvolution Patreon show or something, but dude, I love Speed Racer so much.
Yeah, Milan and I did a review of it for Geeky Gentleman a while back.
I saw that. I was like, oh man, I love the Speed Racer movie so much.
It's like, I don't know why that movie, like, I think the reason people didn't want to like that movie is because they didn't want to like that movie. Like, there's nothing wrong with that film. It is got a solid fucking script. Like, it's really complicated and verging on convoluted, but it's based off of fucking anime. What do you expect?
And it's like about like corruption and like that's the
like
movie
like
that,
FIFA
like,
the
you
movie,
watch
man.
it and you come away and you're like, what was that movie about? And then you think about it and you're like, well, that was a fucking Speed Racer movie and it was about this?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, the visuals are so fucking cool. I love that movie to death. Oh my god. And it's like,
it was in the Martian video, I think we were talking about this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I fucking love Speed Racer. I can't believe I forgot that you like Speed Racer then. I feel bad. Go Speed Racer, go, man.
Let's get a Speed Racer 2, come on.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but I'd totally be down for it.
Or Scott Pilgrim versus Speed Racer.
Yes. That just works so well together.
Yeah.
I'm with this on every conceptual level.
Yeah.
Because like there's all the video game stuff. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm down. Yeah, I don't know what it is about that. All right, so I don't know. I was building toward a point and it just left my head. It's kind of like floating around my forehead, and I might get it back, but I don't know. It's just like, it's right here, and I've just got my hand a couple inches away from my head, and I'm trying to grab at it, and it's not. Anyway, you take us somewhere real quick. Sorry.
I don't know. Shit, I don't know.
That's cool. Well, usually that's a pretty good sign that we're about done. I don't know if we've really said much of anything. It's just that, hidden gem movies tend to fall into obscurity, and people need to give movies more of a fair shake. Actually, you know what? I think I know what I was going to say, because it was related to Speed Racer. I think a lot of the reason that movies will just fall into obscurity like this, even though they don't deserve to, because maybe they're not good, but they still might be interesting or intriguing or important, is they people prejudge it and just decide that they're not going to allow themselves to like it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Dracula Untold's another example of this. Like, I don't love that movie or anything, but I think it is thoroughly all right.
I say that about Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I watched Jurassic Park 3 twice, back to back, a couple weeks ago, or like a week ago. I just watched it. It was on TV. I watched it twice.
Yeah, it's all right. Like, I think the problem with that movie is it's underwhelming compared to the first two.
Yeah, it doesn't need to exist, but I'm glad it does. Oh.
Yeah, like, I'd agree with that. It's a thoroughly all right movie, and that's the way I feel about Dracula Untold. But something about the way people approach it is just like, approach films like that, Speed Racer being, I think, the quintessential example, is like everyone wants to go into Speed Racer and be like, oh, this is a stupid fucking idea, and so they look for things to be wrong with the movie, and then they find them, or they make them up in their head. That's kind of my go-to for any time I hear someone complain about CGI in a movie. I'm like, no, the CGI is perfect. You want something not to like about it. Because, like, you know, I don't like talking about this movie anymore because I get tired of defending it, but I really like Green Lantern, and I love the CGI in Green Lantern, and people complain about that up and down, and they're like, oh, it looks fake, his head just looks like it's floating there. I'm like, no, it really doesn't. You're looking for something to complain about. But anyway, so like I think people just enter into a movie just wanting to find things wrong with it, and so they end up making things up to be wrong with it, and that's what makes something fall into obscurity. Because they cannot allow themselves to enjoy this.
Yeah, and going back to, with older movies that are kind of hidden gems, going all the way back to the beginning of the video, talking about The Brood, movies like that, if I were to say, dude, you need to go watch The Brood, it's awesome. It's like a lost classic horror movie of the 70s. Someone's like, well, I didn't hear about it. I've never heard of that before. It must not be what you're saying it is. And then they don't watch it, and then it continues to, be a hidden gem because no one wants to give it the time of day afterwards. Because if it's not if people don't talk about a movie from the 70s like it was this great movie, what movies from the 70s do we know about really, or talk about every day that are shitty movies? It's or not popular classic movies. Those are the movies that live on and they keep going. If a movie comes out and it's quality, but it's overshadowed by other things and winds up being a hidden gem, if it is not well known, the longer time goes on, if it doesn't kind of emerge out of that hidden gem state, which movies really don't do much anymore, it will just continue to be a hidden gem and fall into obscurity. I'm sure there are tons of movies that you could go out and find that are going to be really hard to find because no one talks about them, that are actually really good, but they just were overshadowed by something at the time.
Oh, well, I mean, the perfect example of the people that really are champions for this kind of thing are people like Tarantino and Rodriguez. Because those guys fucking love those old, movies that aren't like classics or anything. Those old monster and action movies from the 50s to the 70s and stuff, especially the Grindhouse films. Rodriguez and Tarantino fucking love those things. Yeah. And they wouldn't tell you that all of them are good or anything, but they'll make arguments for what was interesting, what was unique about this, and why we should remember this era of filmmaking. And why we shouldn't allow it to just have disappeared away or whatever. And so, like, we need more people like that, more of these people who are in these high up places to be able to not, or to be able to, come down from their perch of artistic genius and embrace something and be like, maybe this isn't perfect, maybe this isn't high art or anything, but there's some good stuff here, and we shouldn't have forgotten about it.
It's about how it makes you feel.
Indeed. And on that note, I think we're going to wrap this up. Roscoe, thank you so much for coming up with this. This is actually a lot of fun to talk about, even though we kind of went all over the place with it. I'm not sure how much we've said entirely, but you and the listening audience can determine that for yourselves. Anyway, until next time, everyone, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Squampus.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.